Hey, welcome to our channel, Farming Life Taste of Siberia. Today I wanted to discuss the subject of going to auctions. Now, when we started off our farm, what had happened was we quickly realized you can't really afford most things, outright unless you have a lot of investors, which we don't. We're just, a small family. We didn't have any backers or anything. I don't really think for small farming it really exists. So with lower funding, what we found is we have to go to a lot of farm auctions and online auctions. And in today's topic, I want to talk about specifically farming auctions in person and some of the tips on what to do there. I've looked on YouTube. I didn't really find anything that useful. Some of the people may talk about, well, hey, this is what it is, but I want to talk about what you should do, or at least what I think. What I do, what I think is good information. So for one, let's say you found an auction and there's a piece of equipment that you really like, or several pieces of equipment or attachments, or whatever it is that you want. And first thing you should do, you do your research. And when you do your research, you find out the description of that item, for one, what you want to buy. And based on that description, you're going to want to set that price. So number one, you research the item that you want, and you find out what it's worth. So what I mean by description is that read the fine print, because they'll say Kubota tractor, 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, and the price tag between the two is going to be really different. And if you go in there with half-assed reading, you're going to quickly overspend on something you probably shouldn't. In the subject of price tagging what you're going to buy, you also have to think about what the price you should pay it at an auction and what you should get it from a private seller. So that, let's say that same piece of equipment, when you set your price, and let's say it's $3,000, and in a later video I'll show you a tractor or a loader that I wanted and I set the price for it, and it was no more than $3,000. And the reason for that is that I probably could find, if I search hard enough and drive far enough, I can probably find a similar tractor with similar attachment for just a little bit more over that price. But when you're buying it from an auction, you don't get to drive it. When you buy it from a private seller, you can take a look at it a little bit more thoroughly. So, number two, what I do is, before I go to the auction, I did my research. I found out what this equipment is worth. Found out what my maximum bid is, and they'll vary based on your budget and amongst other things. What I would do is I would write it down on a piece of paper. Sometimes I even forget that piece of paper. I'll just take a receipt out, quickly scribble down, this is what I want to pay for it, and you hold on to that, because it's going to be very important when you go into actual bidding. You don't want to, and this goes into number three, is that you don't want to become an emotional bidder. So you have that piece of paper, you can look at it, and you don't want to bid over it. And it's really important to have that piece of paper, because it's really easy to get into something when you're saying, oh gosh, I really want this thing, and just go over it. So when it comes to actual bidding, and this is what I really had a hard time finding out any type of hints. Now, you can be a passive bidder, an aggressive bidder. I tend to be a more aggressive bidder when I want something. And how do I get ahead with that? Well, I still have my piece of paper. It's in my hand. I know how much I'm willing to spend. One of the ways that I will bid is I'll start with, if the increments go 10, 20, 30, instead of going up by 10, I'll start up bidding twice as much. So they'll say 10, 20, I'll say 40. And it throws a lot of people off, and sometimes they don't know what to do. Maybe you'll stumble them. This may not always work like anything else, but that has worked for me. Another way is that I know my maximum bid. A short story is that I bought a toolbox. It was a Craftsman 3-tier toolbox. It retails for about $300, and I purchased it for $150, and that was my budget. And the bidding went like this. Somebody said 10, I said 20, somebody said 30, I said 150. And I ended up getting that box. I knew what I was willing to spend for it. I knew it was worth to me that much. and I ended up getting it. One of the other bidders came up later and said, hey, I was bidding on that box. It looks like a really good deal. I kind of wanted it, but you seem to have really wanted it. So he didn't bid any further. Another hint to that is that there are these round numbers that you can get into. So that was 150. For a lot of people, that might have been their actual spending limit. And another magic number could have been 1,000 for something else, or you're just looking for rounded up numbers. And people get in their head thinking, well, I will not spend more than 150. But if you're just going through the motion of going by increments, your increment or where you are in line and who's bidding, you might not fall on that 150. And then somebody else is getting 150 and the next bid is 160. And you're like, no, my budget was 150, and that person ended up getting it. But that budget could have been the same budget for 3 other people, and they're not going to bid further than that. So that's a really good hint to, know those key numbers. And if you're not too far from it and you know it's going to go to that and you're willing to spend it, I just bid on that. I would say one more thing, and it would be, don't become an emotional bidder. So it would be number 3 and number 5. Do not become emotional about it. Keep that piece of paper with you at all times. The video that I'm about to show you was a real auction that I went to that had tractor loader on it, and I also wanted some old antique tractor seats that I wanted to refinish and make them into type of bar stools. And the lesson there is I didn't get any of it because it quickly went over budget on both items. The tractor loader, I budgeted for no more than $3,000. I really wanted it for about $2,500, but it went to $3,000 pretty quickly. And you also have to keep an account that there's going to be a buyer's premium. And if you pay with a credit card, there's even more. So with a credit card, if I wanted to use a credit card, which we don't, it would have been 15%. So you add that up to your budget. If something's $1,000, you're looking at $1,150. We normally use our equity line to purchase these items. That way we don't have to pay that extra 3% for card. But in the video, you'll see how quickly it escalates. I just took the one with the tractor. The car seats, I budgeted $20 a piece. They went out for $40 on some of them, and I just didn't get them. I wanted the whole thing. So here's the clip. Enjoy.
Once again, we're going to use this tomorrow until noon. You can pick it up after noon tomorrow. Massey Ferguson 35 Deluxe. Got good tires on the backside. Good tires all around, looks like. Hey, way to get for it. Hey, give me one, ask you what? 35, 45, you tell me. How much? $1,000. I get 1,000 bid, 12 and 15 back, 17, 50, 17, 50. I had now 2022 today, I had 22.50. I had 2,000 bid, 22 today, I get 22 today. What do you say? 22.50. I get 2,500, 25, I get 23, 24, 25, 25, 26, 2,600, 26, I get 26 here. What do you say? 27. I had 27, 28, 2,800, 28, I get 29, 29 now 3. I had 3,000 bid, 29 now 3. I had 29 now 3 and a 3 and a 3. 29 to get 3 to get 3 to get 3 to get 3 here. What do you say? 3 you want her? I had 20 loader. 3,000. What do you say? 2,900 now 3 and a 3. 3 and a 3 and a 3. What do you say? 3,000. 29 to get 3 you want her? 3,000. 3,000 here. 3,000 there. What do you say? You want her? I say last call. What do you say? You want her? 3,000 and I. 2,900. Buyer number is 133. 133.
That's a Minneapolis.
Take it over here.